Hello, Music Multiverse listeners, and welcome back to Beyond Your Radio's Unknown Sundays. It's time to talk about another band, artists, or something in the music multiverse that might actually be relatively unknown, sort of missed, that our watchers, collectors, listeners might be interested in, a rabbit hole to go down, past or present. Please remember that this is an extension of our article sections on beyondyourradio.com. And you can get the full detail written there by me, links to all kinds of things depending on what the topic is. When you're an impulse addicted buyer in the music multiverse, there are a few things that you must attempt to live with. First, knowing that there is no amount of therapy that is going to save you from this disease. Over time, I found that technology is working for and against me. Let me explain. The changes in medium, obviously, from albums to cassettes to compact disc, created a purchase nightmare and a struggle and an ability to decide which, as well as obviously the money. Not to mention deciding which format for the price. Now, technology is attempting to curb my purchasing. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? Considering it's people like me that probably account for a large percentage of the overall purchase of the mediums market, I buy just about everything, whereas the higher percentage buy one of something and leave the rest unless it becomes popular enough to purchase. The streaming cost is actually far less than my normal expenditure per year in compact discs, where at one point I was actually spending about $2,400 a year in music collecting. And that's probably, a guesstimate of saying $45 a week, where there were some weeks that it was more, some weeks that it was less. And of course, this is purchases that come from used bin too. So don't divide that by a certain amount. Say, always getting 2 or 3 CDs. No, I was probably getting a little bit better than that. Although now people have become more aware in the industry at the record store as to pricing. So now I can have nearly everything available to listen to without the trip or the collective space consumption. Wait, then you're asking me, why is he still collecting? I truly couldn't tell you why. I guess it's to have the packaging, the ability to grab the detail right then and there, right off the back of the shelf, or obviously to have in my car, providing that the medium is still available in my car. And finally, the reason for this Unknown Sunday is living with the fact that what I purchase is probably at some point going to sit in a collection for years, possibly forever. Like the one I'm saving for a special topic someday down the road. I might not even recall when I purchased. That comes up more recent, since I've started going to Beyond Your Radio, because I'm always looking for something and trying to make matches to the panelists' favorites or ideas and concepts. So here comes today, where I couldn't remember the name and style of music and why such an album was even purchased at the time. In fact, I'm fairly certain that I have not replayed this record since I purchased it on that impulse buy in a used bin. I grabbed It's Time to Find Out if I really blew it or not. This is Bleu on Unknown Sundays 2025 and a bit more. Major label debut Redhead came out in 2003 from singer-songwriter, Berkeley graduate William James McCauley III. Just to give you a little heads up, if you're watching album for today, all the albums this week will be the Roman numeral 3. I don't know how this all came about, but the universe is talking to me, I guess, in some way, shape, or form. So watch that. It'll be interesting. And it was the culmination of his indie recordings, his growing local popularity in the Boston region. His one single had gathered some regional airplay, and the likes of Gooster, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, Letters to Cleo were guests, and general likability in the platform there. He would be an easy, approachable musician to give an entry-level contract to, an easy thing. Now, before that happened, he was doing a work for a full-length album he had and winning a local radio contest. So he's really homing his skills, working it all, building an audience in the Boston area so much that he even gets to tour locally, and maybe locally and maybe a little bit further outside the realm with popular Ben Folds. So when Redhead was released, they found they had to try to put two creative albums. They kind of switched them in and out. They took certain songs in and certain songs out for the recording. So the album actually has two different versions. This one, there's two songs that are missing, but two songs added and one extra. The other one has a different one. So I don't know what the purpose of that was, but in putting this together, I had all the tracks. So he gets a spot on the Spider-Man soundtrack. So when Redhead was released, they wound up creating two different release versions, switching out those songs. And obviously with that, I think Columbia was in on that. So you got the soundtrack. He's even on Win a Date with Tad Hamilton. The soundtrack, it's got Liz Phair, John Mayer on it, and Five for Fighting. So he's in really good company. And so he gets the release. I mean, this obviously, I think, did pretty well. I mean, it didn't sell a million copies or anything of that nature, but for a guy who was thrown to a record label in a local region, he did fairly well. So he gets a 2004 release follow-up called A Watched Pot. With the power pop fun and sincerity and cleverly placed stuff that was in this carry on? Well, yes and no. Let me take you back to my purchase. I buy, I listen. It has that pop and the over familiar production. That is 2003, which just, I don't know, just didn't hit my wheelhouse. That happens. It comes, there's a new batch that comes in, and Bleu gets shelved properly in alphabetical order. Talk about that alphabetical order in a minute. The first time I played it, it was for This Unknown Sundays. So now we're talking 20 plus years later, it's been sitting. In fact, the production is very well done, as the smattering of pop variety flows. In fact, going back to my version of Redhead that I own, it was a very good exercise, confirming to me that there was a reason for the purchase. It wasn't just, oh, good, it was $1.99 or it was $2.99. I'll give it a shot, and then it just stands in a pile. What failed wasn't the artist. It was more my connection and time failure, which, considering how I put myself in harm's way of all the music it is something that I have to live with. It's my self-awareness. I Won't Fuck You Over, for which came from A Watched Pot. And that was there all along. I know this probably sounds like a lie, but I won't fuck you over this time. Has shades of things to come, like a Gavin DeGraw, perhaps, by upping the soul side of songwriting, or When the Lights Go Out, which kind of brings in a Michael Bublé kind of feel. So, as well as a connection to female vocal in his songwriting, which comes in later. That will lead us to the last part of This Unknown Sunday. With Bleu, which is William James Macaulay III, he adds a dimension as to why he's in my collection that I might not have realized at first, but now I know because I'm willing to go back. And that's what you have to be. I'm willing to go further on Unknown Sundays. Bleu is a nice side project now at this point that probably works well in fulfilling his live playing love with an audience, a place to explore his writing and times in front of an audience, which I'm sure it's a great high. What pays the bills, and is considerably more than that of Redhead, or contest winning, or being on several soundtracks? Well, William James Macaulay III is a famous Boston bank robber. No. I had to go there. I wanted to catch. No, he's not actually a bank robber. Although in Boston, who knows, right? No, he's actually a contributor, writer, and record producer, because he understands the fundamentals of songwriting, the struggle, but also the power of pop audio, as well as having the words live through the vocal and new input of others in the music multiverse. He is famous still, just not as a bank robber, but wouldn't have That'd been cool if he was. Let's give you some name drops just so you understand the level of collaboration and production as well as songwriting. Demi Lovato, Selena Gomez, Big Freedia, Jonas Brothers, Boys Like Girls, Michelle Branch, Hanson, Katie Vogel, Meatloaf, Tristan Prettyman, Daniel Powder, Drake Bell, Alex Johnson, the female out of Canada, I believe, and John Oates. Yes, that's right. That's John Oates of Hall & Oates. So as a record producer and all hands on deck, he's been involved in another project that had me curious. So as a bonus to this week's Unknown Sunday, this is Air Traffic Controller on Unknown Sundays. The band, which started off with their debut album in 2009, The One, drew some indie rock pop genre attention in a year that, well, you could consider right in the wheelhouse of indie. Indie alternative was, Grizzly Bear was going on, Flaming Lips, Animal Collective, XX. That's a fair total of stuff going on. The album, like Blue's start, had a song, People Watching, that actually got dropped on Watching You, Watching Me. So is that all there is to see? Are these your only memories? On the NHL 17 soundtrack, as well as the album being nominated for Breakthrough Artist on MTV. Dave Munro, M-U-N-R-O, is a United States navalman. And yes, an air traffic controlman. Hence the appropriate naming of the band. So during his time in service, he's writing and sending tracks back in demos back home. So it showcases his talent, his creativity, and eventually the way to put together a band and have that full discovery. However, the bigger break would come at the ear and hands of Bleu, as the producer took over the albums right then on Nordo and on their third album, Black Box. Yeah, that's a little close to home, I imagine. The Black Box thing is an air traffic controller, but what a great title when you think of it. It would win the Independent Spirit Award for album and producer, featuring an indie sound that rolled in and out of pop, rock, and some synth pop. The glue that keeps it together is the strong songwriting that came from that Dave Munro, but also it filtered truthfully through even the songs or even the singing of Miss McSwain, who's also a contributor on the record in the band. So she's singing too. So both you got William producing this record, probably having a hand in some of the songwriting modifications. Dave is a great songwriter, and you got this McSwain singing, and it's a catchy record from 2016 that was a winner's circle with the likes of Cecilia McLaurin, Savant, in jazz at that time. Not only that, but there was Mitski, who's still around today, Angel Olsen, Car Seat Headrest, and Pine Grove, to name just a few that were in and around that 2016 that are still prevalent today. The band's latest record, Dash, which is not produced by Bleu, stays in that wheelhouse and indie connections, but I'm not sure it has that catchiness and indie reach because of the flow inconsistencies and a willingness to go into a hint of lo-fi in places. The musicianship runs from piano, keyboard, guitar jangle, and sonic to a sparse single folk twang, like the song Kissed You in the Morning, which... That's why I kissed you in the morning and cried. Then I left without saying goodbye. Somehow feels like filler. And, there have been changes not only to the producer because there's no more Bleu, but there's also been changes to the band itself. So, but it's still worthy of an indie pop and rock exploration, as there's still catchy moments that you're looking forward to. There's a bit of thumping and pursuing without thoughtful songwriting. So that album, this one here, that sat 20 years on a shelf to keep Blank Theory from touching Blind Melon, this weekend has brought back to me a good indie pop record that I sort of forgotten about. It also led me to an artist that's gone farther than the one album. Solo-wise, there's quite a decent indie pop collection to his career in songwriting as well as production. And it brought me to an interesting band that continues to this day in Air Traffic Controller. I can live with that. But you probably already knew that, considering the 2 wall deep of CDs you can partially see behind me. And, when you watch this on YouTube. Albums of Bleu, a Bing Bang Holidang, which started it all off in 1999, which was independent. He also did Headroom in 2000, also independent. His major record label debut, Redhead, in 2003, which I have. The Blizzard of 05, 2007, A Watch Pot in 2009, 4 in 2010. To Hell With You in 2014, 6 tape in 2021. Albums of Air Traffic Control, I don't have any. The One, which came in 2009, Nordo in 2012, Black Box 2016, which was the Independent Music Award winning, and then Dash in 2022. What did you think of Bleu, as well as Air Traffic Controller? There's a lot more to go down in that rabbit hole. Did you experience him live at any case or anything? Please let us know. Please leave a comment, leave a note or two. Please hit the like button. Please hit the like button. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so you can get more of us on Beyond Your Radio and all our programs. I'll see you next week for another Unknown Sunday. We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course, articles, videos, podcasts right around the corner. Albums, bands, artists, anything we can get our hands on. Go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. And of course, always thank you for watching and happy listening.